Hey guys, this is going to be the much anticipated Captain Sisay deck tech review. Um, Unfortunately, there is one card that I was waiting for a long time. Unfortunately, it got lost in the mail, but I just reordered it, so I am going to be getting it. But that's why this video took so long because um, I was waiting for that card so then I can have the complete deck. I am planning to make one change. There's one card that I'm probably going to be taking out, which is Nissan Wild Ravager, which I had as a possible alternative win, but with the way this deck has been going, it's been so consistent. It's not becoming that much of an issue, so I'm fairly fine with taking out that alternative win condition and go with just there's a lot of alternative wins already in this deck, but this is, this just takes one of them out of the way. And this deck, don't want to get too confused and lost in what this deck's supposed to do. So this is Captain Sisay. What's awesome about this is that it lets me search my library for a legend or a legendary card and put it in my hand. This whole deck is all about abusing it, pretty much, and it is really, really, really good card. Great commander to have. My other commander deck that I have, well, I have two other ones, but the main one that I had was a sliver deck. It pretty much had the same kind of effect, and I saw how great it could be. But this deck is so fast, it is very, very ferocious. So anyways, I'll just get right into it. So, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planes. Just some basic lands. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 forests. I keep basics in, obviously, because some cards I had to search for a basic land, and also because you don't want too many non-basic lands. If you have too many, then your deck can get screwed up from cards that say destroy all non-basic lands and whatnot, which is fairly common in EDH. Next card I have is Horizon Canopy, pay 1 life. Sacrifice Horizon Canopy and draw a card. I don't really use the second effect at all, unless it's I'm in a pretty bad sticky situation. But paying 1 life is not that much of a drawback at all in EDH because you get 40 life. So I use this a lot. I also have Sun Petal Grove. Enters battlefield tapped unless you control a forest or a plains. So one card that I do have next is the Temple Garden, which is considered a forest and a plains. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 life. If you don't, it enters tapped. Usually I'll pay 2 life, and it's just pay 2 life that one time, which is not bad. So it's a forest and a plains, so whenever I have a card that has me look for a forest or a plains, it's good. This also counts as one of the forest and plains for Sun Petal Grove. This card gets fairly easily abused. I have another one, the second version, Canopy Vista, which it enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands, which I usually will have quite a bit out because my deck also searches for basic lands through kind of like a tutor effect from spells and also elves. Wooden Bastion, just great for mana fixing, getting the right amount of mana that I need. So that's pretty nice. Obviously, I went a little bit more. I pushed a little bit more money into this deck, so I ended up getting Savannah. This is probably the only deck that I would be willing to buy any dual lands for, because all I really need is like a Savannah. That's really it. So this works out very well. It was pretty pretty cheap. It's in, obviously, as you can see, it's in great condition. I love it. So that's why I got that. Wood-Swept Heath. Pay 1 life. Search your library for a Forest or Plains card. Like I said, I got some Forest and Plains cards cards that let me search for Forest or Plains, and I have also some lands that count as both. There are non-basic that count as a forest and a plains. So it helps me with mana fixing. Command Tower. 1 mana of any color of my commander's identity. A staple. Hall of Bandit Lord. Comes into battlefield tapped, unfortunately. Pay 3 life. Add 1 mana to your mana pool. If it's spent on a creature spell, it has haste. I like it because it speeds up the game. I can get out Captain Sisay using that card, and this deck gets off pretty fast, so I could get out Captain Sisay with haste in turn 2 or 3 a lot of times. Wasteland. Destroy target non-basic land. This is good just to set the opponent back, whether to keep me ahead, to stop opponents from countering my when I go into my combo, or just to destroy land because my deck's not working quite as fast as I want it to be. There's been many times where it goes, I win turn 6, 5 or 6, which is funny because it's pretty fast for EDH deck, but it's slow to me because I've been running this deck for a while. Strip Mine, sacrifice, strip mine, destroy land, add 1 colorless mana. Once again, blows up lands. Ichichi Castle, add planes to your mana pool, prevent next to damage to be dealt. Don't really use the second one, although it is kind of good sometimes in sticky situations. But this is for just being a legendary land, so I got the green one and the white one. Once again, I don't use the second effect as much, but if I don't use this mana, usually when this comes on the battlefield, I'm going to be using it. But if I don't, for whatever reason, I can use it to give target creature +1/+1. That'll usually be Captain Sisay. So the next cards I have are cards that kind of just stall. So I got Ghostly Prison, which is low cost. A lot of my cards are going to be low costing until I get to the creatures. But creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature attacking you. Slows down a lot of people's decks quite a bit. Reconnaissance, enchantment, remove target attacking creature you control from combat and untap it. So basically, this almost has a flicker sort of effect. It's a poor man's flicker, but it stays on the battlefield, so it's very, very powerful. A lot of people don't give that enough credit. It's a good card. You put it in any EDH deck that you can, because it's really well worth it. Blind Obedience is another great card. It has Extort, so you can pay a Plains or a Swamp to do 1 damage. My deck can actually abuse this because of the untap ability to untap my artifacts to create more planes and whatnot, but that really is not a win condition for me, although I guess it can be an alternative win. I just use it to slow down my opponents, so the artifacts and creatures my opponent's control can come into the battlefield tapped. Dawn Charm. I can either prevent all combat damage dealt this turn, regenerate target creature, or counter target spell. Very, very powerful. White does not have very many counters, and it works great. And obviously Wrath of God, just to wipe the field if I don't like the field. Somebody's going off faster than me, or somebody is has something that I just can't get rid of for whatever reason. Relic of Genesis, exiles card from graveyard, great to go against graveyard decks. Although I definitely use the draw card for this quite a bit, because this deck needs draw. Debt of Loyalty, regenerate target creature, gain control. So it's basically, once again, another white control card. Swords to Plowshares, target creature removed from game, gains life. It's a nice cheap removal spell. Having my opponent gain life doesn't do anything really to my deck, because my deck goes so fast. Mobilize, untap all your creatures. Mind's Eye, I have this so I can draw more cards, because I need more draw in this deck. Whenever a player plays a land, player draws a card. Once again, more draw. Since it's Divining Top, draw, and also so I can see what's coming up. I can oftentimes figure out if I want to get the draw or if I want to shuffle my deck. Getting out a legendary card. This is very, very powerful in this deck. Lead the Stampede, basically like a tutor. It's like a non-looking tutor, sort of. I get 5 cards in my hand. If I get creatures, I put them in my hand. Usually, if I get elves, it is very broken. Amari's Call, search your library for creature, tutor for creatures. Sterling Grove, all their enchantments can't be targets of spells or abilities. And then I can sacrifice it, and I can search for a target enchantment card. So it's basically a tutor itself. Another tutor, Enlightened Tutor. Search the library for artifact or enchantment, very powerful. And another powerful card, Worldly Tutor. Search your library for a creature card, reveal and shuffle your library, and put it on top of it. So it's pretty good. Harmonized, once again, draw is an issue, so if I'm not going out quite as fast, this helps speeds me up. Guy's Blessing, this helps me from mill decks, and it also provides me the draw, which is great. Explore helps me get out lands fast. This deck can pump out tons of lands really, really quickly, and it gives me a draw. Bargaining, this card can be super, super powerful. It is a situational card, but I love it. Whenever an opponent plays a land, you may choose a land from hand and put it into play. Since I have so many cards, you'll be seeing that allows me to search for lands and either put it on the battlefield or put it in my hand. This is very, very powerful. I can consistently get out lands having that card on the field. Farseek, search your library for Plains, Island, Swamp, Mountain. Onto battlefield tap, like I said, I can search for those 2 lands that are library, that are a plains and a forest. Although it actually doesn't search for forest, but search for plains, forest, plains, and it still gets around so it still mana fixes. This one allows me to search for a basic land, put it on battlefield, and it has suspend. Sometimes if I get this turn 1, I'll use the suspend. Usually I don't, because my deck exponentially gets out of hand with the lands. So land is not really an issue with this deck typically. Sylvan Shrine, search your library for a land card, put it in your hand. That lets me get any land, which is pretty broken. Search your library for up to 2 land cards. Cultivate is very broken. Once again, I got another version of it. It is Kadama's Reach, and its only difference is that it's arcane as well, but that doesn't mean anything. Crop Rotation lets me ditch a basic land to get like a dual land and whatnot. So this just helps me with mana fixing as well. Birds of Paradise, it's kind of out of its place because it is a bird, it's not an elf. But it is a 1-drop. It does get me 1 mana of any color. Usually if I'm searching for a creature card, this is my go-to. If it's not that, it's the elf that taps for any kind of mana, which is Elvish Harbinger, which I'll get to after this one. I get Imperious Perfect. This gives me +1/+1 for all my elves. This is my alternative win condition, is by spamming elves, so I can get elf tokens out. It's very easy to do this. Once again, another elf lets me search for another elf, and I get 1 mana of any color that I want. Elvish Mystic. It's usually pretty much a card that I use Elvish Harbinger to get another card out, to another elf to pump out mana. This or Priest of Titania. Elvish Mystic gets me 1 mana. Priest of Titania gets me green mana for each elf in play. Very broken. Llanoware Elf gets me mana. And that is pretty much it for the elves, I believe. Nope, that's not it. Sorry. Some stuff out of spot. Finder's Elves gets me more mana. Elvish Archdruid pumps up my elves, and I get 1 mana for each elf. And I get Arbor Elf, which is very broken. It lets me untap target forest, so I can untap those other dual lands. Wood Elves, very broken. Lets me search for a forest card, like I said. And gets to put it into play untapped, too. Yorga Tree Speaker, it's very broken. It helps get so much mana, and this is how I'm able to get mana so fast. Hopefully to get my Paradox Engine out and just spam everything up like crazy. So I got Mox Opal, get 1 mana of any color. It's a legendary artifact, so I'm able to use Captain Sisay to get that out. It's very broken. Crown Mox, just for mana fixing. Basalt Monolith, just to get out tons of mana. I know it doesn't have its untap, but when I use Paradox Engine, it will untap. So the untap doesn't mean anything to my deck. Moss Diamond comes into play tapped. Like I said, it can untap though once I have the Paradox Engine combo in effect. Gilded Lotus, this is really a very important card. This is how I get my planes fixed very easily, so I try to get this out if I can. Worn Power Stone, a cheap mana rock, comes into play tap, but like I said before, same with Mana Vault, comes into play tap, but like I said before, it'll untap due to the combo. So as a Signet, this was the card I've been trying to get. I know it's a cheap card, but I've been trying to get it. It helps with mana fixing. Chromatic Lantern, very broken. Helps with mana fixing. Grand Dynamo just gives me more mana. And Grim Monolith gives me more mana. Soul Ring, and this is the last one of the mana rock. So I got tons of mana rock just to make sure I'm not missing my land drops. So I get next is the legendary creatures. This is what makes the deck or breaks the deck. Is really these legendary creatures. They're so broken. So I get Linvala, Keeper of Silence. Activated abilities of creatures your opponent controls can't be activated. Very broken. Yamja bars the way. Whenever a legendary permanent other than Yamja is put into a graveyard from play, return that card to its owner's hand. Sorry if I'm saying it wrong. I don't know how to say it. Omnath, Locus of Mana, gives me more mana. Well, not more mana, but it keeps my mana, and it also pumps itself too. So it can pump itself through my combo very, very fast. It gets to be a very big creature. Avacyn, do I need to say more? It's very broken, and all permanents are indestructible. Flying and Vigilance. Jareth, Leland Titan. It's a great blocker. It gets +7/+7 when it blocks. It gains protection of the color of your choice until end of turn. Very big. Yosei Morning Star. When Yosei dies, target player skips his or her untapped step. Tap up to target 5 permanents. Very broken. that doesn't happen too often, but when it does, it works very nicely. L3 Renegade Leader. This is an elf warrior, so it counts as an elf. Regenerate another target elf. So if my elves are getting pings by white weenie kind of decks, this helps a lot. Also, elves creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample until end of turn. Because I'm getting so much mana, I pretty much get green infinite mana. So it's I can easily get that stuff out. Safari Eriksdotter, sacrifice her, and when target creature is put into graveyard, turn that card from play this turn, return that card to play. Very broken. Saves my legendaries. Rise to Redeem creates more tokens, and it can even kind of populate tokens too. So it's very broken. It's kind of like it's a creature doubling seasoning. So Elish Norn, Grand Cenobite, gives my creatures +2/+2. Control creatures my opponent controls gets -2/-2. Very broken. Reki, very, very, very important in this deck. This is a main part of my draw. Whenever I play a legendary spell, draw a card. Very, very broken, and it's just so cheap. It's so broken, and it's cheap. It works very well in the deck. Iona, Shield Emera. It pretty much just gives protection from any chosen color. It allows my opponent to not get cast that color spell, so it can get rid of mono-color decks. 8.5 tails. Target permanent you control gains protection, so it gives protection till end of turn, and then you can change the permanent to whatever to being white. So you can make the opponent's cards not usable. I only have 2 Planeswalkers in this deck. I have Gideon Jura, which I used primarily for it's -2 to destroy target tapped creature. It's very broken. Because my deck gets so big so fast, that's typically all I need to do. Elspeth, Sun Champion, destroy. I usually use either it's put 3 white 1/1 white soldier creature tokens on the field and then populate using my other creature, or destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater. So it really depends on the situation. Creatures you control get +2/+2 and half flying. This is great for if I need to go on my elf, my second plan, which is elves winning. Paradox Engine, whole decks are based around it. So legendary artifacts, so it can be searched. Mindslayer, another legendary artifact. This gets me pretty much another turn. I get control that player's turn, so it's a nice control card. Umazawa's Jitte allows me to either pump up my creature, gain life, give a creature -1/-1. It's very, very powerful. Akroma's Memorial. Creatures you control have flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, haste, and protection from black and from red. Very, very good. This, if I get this out, I pretty much have won. You've won the game. So, Hero's Podium. Very, very broken. Another legendary artifact. Each legendary creature you control gets +1/+1 for each other legendary creature. And then it has an X cost tap. So I can search for legendary creatures, but I don't use that because of Captain Sisay. Coat of Arms. Each creature gets +1/+1, so this is pretty much for my elves, but this can work for other creatures as well, but just primarily elves. Lightning Greaves to protect Captain Sisay, so it has Haste and Shroud, which is very, very broken. And then the last card, as I said, Nestling Wilds Ravager. I had this as a potential alternative win because it can go pretty quickly, getting big. And I deck spams quite a bit of mana, so it's not an issue. But I'm probably going to get rid of it since I am getting a Dust Bowl, I believe. The one that, if you pay 3 and tap it, you can destroy another land. So it's a card I'm going to get rid of, probably, in this deck. So, that is my Captain Sisay deck. I hope you guys liked it. I worked really hard on this deck. Did so much research on it, and I'm really pleased with how it runs. It is very consistent. It is an either turn 3 to turn 5 win. It is not a turn 1 win. Unless I get like super lucky, but I mean I can get, and it's not really that hard to get Captain Sisay out on turn 1, turn 2. So I mean that's good enough for me. It's typically a turn 1, turn 2 Captain Sisay, so sometimes turn 3, which is why it ends up being a turn 6 win. But it's a very good deck. It's a fun combo deck, and it's a deck that I love, and I had a lot of fun making it, and I wanted to share this with you guys. I hope you guys like this deck tech. You guys can try to build it, have some fun with it. It's very powerful. I would definitely say this is a competitive deck. Make sure if you are going to be trying to build it that you know your playgroup, that your playgroup's going to be okay with it, because this is a very mean deck that I know at my card shop, when I started playing this, a lot of people got very ticked off because of how broken this deck is. I had a guy get very upset so much that he pretty much would not play with me ever again. So he's a nice guy and everything, so it's all worked out now. But this deck is very mean, and it can cause problems with your friends. So just a warning. Anyways, hope you guys like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.